Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the ISACA Trinidad and Tobago chapter's free webinar on privacy and security concerns in the time of a pandemic. My name is Vijay Sami, Education Director at the ISACA Trinidad and Tobago chapter. And today we have a great webinar looking at some of the concerns that we need to be aware of as we shift to work at home or work from home type of operation, given the COVID-19 restrictions that have been put in place. Before I introduce our speakers today, just a couple housekeeping items. First one, please remember that those of you attending the webinar, you can claim 1 CPE through self-reporting via the My ISACA portal. The slide deck for this presentation will be made available on the chapter's website, so you can download it from there. We will be taking any questions towards the end of the webinar, so I ask you to use the Q&A feature to ask your questions, and these questions will be noted, and we will take them at the end of the chapter, at the end of the meeting, and we'll try and cover as many as we can based on how much time we have. And finally, there is a survey that I ask you if you could just take a couple minutes to take at the end of the webinar. It will be automatically sent to you. This is very useful for us to understand how we are doing with the webinars and what you would like to see in upcoming. So please just take a time. It won't take long, maybe about 2 to 3 minutes to complete. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce our presenter this morning. And his name is Rishi Maharaj. He's the Executive Director of the EquiGov Institute. And this is an organization that is involved in social consulting and training and specializes in information access, transparency, governance, data privacy, and monitoring and evaluation. Mr. Maharaj is the holder of a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science degrees in government from the University of the West Indies. He has over 13 years experience in both public and civil society sector and has considerable knowledge and experience working in government from both operational and policy standpoints. During the period 2005 to 2012, he was a senior officer in charge of the Freedom of Information Unit. And during this time, he provided technical advice on the passage and the partial proclamation of the Data Protection Act in 2011. He was also involved in the drafting of the model legislation on freedom of information and data protection, which was facilitated through the International Telecommunications Union's HIPCA project. Mr. Maharaj is a certified member of the Canadian Institute of Access and Privacy Professionals and the International Association of Privacy Professionals. So he's well qualified and experienced in this area. And without much further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Maharaj. Rishi, take it away.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all can hear me clearly. All right, so my assumption is that you all can hear me clearly, so I'm going to continue. Thank you very much for inviting me to do this very, I think, important and poignant presentation on dealing with this whole idea of the pandemic and privacy and security at this time. As you know, these are not ordinary times, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but in also every single part of the world. You know, I think this is the first time since the world wars that we've had such an incident like this really impact on everyone in the world in almost one form or fashion. So again, today is not meant to be a prescriptive discussion, but more or less to be able to give you all some ideas that you all can use with regards to dealing with this whole idea of privacy security, especially at this interesting time that we're dealing with right now. As was mentioned before, you know, I'm the Executive Director of the EquiGov Institute. Social enterprise incorporated into 2018. So we focus on, yes, private sector organizations, public sector. We also try to work with non-governmental organizations too, especially now we see in the important role that they are playing with regards to getting aid and, and services to those who are in need. So we classify ourselves as a social enterprise in helping those organizations, apart from private sector and the public sector, that really could use our help with regards to areas such as training and consultancy and different things. As was mentioned, our core area of specialty is data privacy. I worked on our Data Protection Act way back in 2011. Data governance, the whole idea of data strategy and setting up the governance systems, as well as monitoring and evaluation. But enough of this. I think we're all very interested to know exactly how best we can deal with what's going on right now. And I think this first quotation here is poignant. If necessity is the mother of all inventions, then COVID-19 has definitely forced us to rethink our daily lives on a day-to-day basis. We're seeing what's going on right now with the disruption that is taking place in every single sector. You think about education. I mean, I have two girls of my own, and they've been home since March. Pretty happy about that. They can't complain, but we've seen the disruptions happen on the education sector. We see the disruptions having on the food sector now, where organizations have within overnight changed their service delivery to curbside and to delivering to your homes, when before, although it was available, it wasn't really used as much. We're seeing now where a lot of online services are now taking precedence over different things. I think up to recently, I saw an ad that came over on my Instagram feeds where a particular doctor, I don't know who it is, who's actually continuing to practice and is now looking to do a consultation using, I think, Zoom or something like that, to be able to meet the needs of her clientele who may need her during this time. So it definitely is something that we all are impacted on, and it's imperative that, we use this time, I think, to really relook some of the processes that we have in place and be able to plan ahead going forward as to how we can better deliver our goods and our services, manage our resources, both personnel resources and electronic resources, to be able to deliver what we need to do as an organization. And I think this next slide here tells the story pretty well. I think there was, if I remember correctly, there was actually a meme that was going across stating who was responsible for digital disruption or something within the organization. They had CFO, they had the CIO, and then they had COVID-19. And it seemed to take COVID-19 as that particular entity that has really caused many organizations right now to really rethink the way they do business. It's no longer business as usual. It's a time of disruption in everything that we're doing. And I guess we need to take our time to really understand exactly how we go forward in dealing with this. We've heard the experts say, for example, that this could go all the way on to July, August. We may not have a vaccine until 2021, probably 2022. So there may be ups and downs with regards to situations like this happening, where waves may come, waves may go, and in terms of being disrupting the way we deliver goods and services. So it is a changing environment and something that happened overnight, and that organizations are now really, really trying to get a handle on with regards to how do we now manage our people in times like this. We have a lot of people now who have been forced now to work from home. I think many people felt, oh my God, I'm getting to work from home, it's so good. And then once they started working from home, they realize it's not an easy thing to work from home. There are different things that we have to manage. From a business perspective, how do you make sure that your deliverables by your employees are still done? Create a safe and secure environment that they can work from. If you're an organization, for example, that delivers goods and services, and you're now moved to an online platform, how do we now collect payment for that? We saw recently where I think PayPal had stopped the deposit of monies to Visa credit card or prepaid credit card, and the disruption that has had, at least in the entrepreneurship space here in Trinidad, that I'm a bit familiar with. And we saw local companies like WePay and them stepping in to offer different types of services that allow organizations to still collect monies and be able to deliver their goods and services. So it's really a rapidly changing time. it's a fluid situation. There's no right or wrong answer. So we need to be very aware and monitor exactly what's going on all the time to be able to adapt to change. And 1 second you may hear, okay, we're going back out to work. Everything slowly would get back to normal, and then something could happen, and then you're back to square one all over again. So I think the name of the game now is to be flexible, or to be very agile in terms of how you deliver your goods and services, but also how you manage the change. And this is where now change management within the organization, IT environment, in a human resource environment, in a service delivery environment needs to play the part in terms of how we now adapt to this changing environment going forward. And what we are seeing also is that a lot of those companies that were able to use technology and be able to leverage on technology that exists out there to be able to rethink their business model, they have so far been doing exceptionally well. I think if on my feed every day I see ads coming out for people who will deliver your groceries to your home. Just recently, last week, I did the WhatsApp service that's offered by True Value, where you WhatsApp your grocery list to True Value to be able to go and collect your groceries. They'll WhatsApp you back, tell you what's the bill. I went in, and when I went into True Value, there was a long line of people waiting to go in. But my wife told me, when she spoke to them, that you go talk to the guard, show the guard that you WhatsApp your list. So I went to the guard and said, okay, well, I WhatsApp my list. And the guy said, okay, no problem, you can go ahead. And when I went in, my goods were bagged and everything right there at the desk. And then they took the bill, took me to a cashier dedicated to the WhatsApp service. I was able to pay for my groceries and got it. And I got in, I got out as quickly as possible. So WhatsApp, just that small, simple tool of WhatsApp has been utilized by some organizations to digitally transform the way they deliver their goods and services. We see marketplaces now, they're now going to deliver your market items to you. If you want, I think my wife wanted to start planting, and she actually WhatsApp somebody and they delivered seedlings to us. So we're seeing now that people who are able to leverage on the technology that exists out there have been able to better transform quickly and to still deliver their goods and services, albeit maybe at a scaled down level, but still be able to deliver their goods and services. And this is where I guess Industry 4.0 really plays a very critical part in this, in that you're able to marry the digital world with the physical goods and services that you offer. And this is where I think we as business people, even as in the IT sector, we need to be aware also that yes, it's good to leverage technology and leverage these things, but these things also have certain hidden dangers in them. And we need to be aware of those dangers to ensure that at the end of the day, we have no compromise to our systems. From a business point of view, we don't compromise the information that we collect from our customers or anything like that. So it's a really flexible situation that we're in that we need to be contingent of. So what are some of the key risks or some of the key factors that really aid or can you need to look at in terms of digitally transforming the way you work, the way you operate? One is obviously the point of origin. How much does a company rely on digital technologies right now? How much do you leverage the use of digital technology? And this is where you as an organization need to take an intrinsic look at yourself to see, exactly how much do we use it right now? Is it really used a lot? And of course, if the answer is yes, it makes it easier for you to transmit from one form to the other. So knowing exactly, the reliance on digital technology. Two would be speed. How fast can the company be viably transformed? And we're seeing right now overnight companies are automatically starting to shift from offline to online, from bricks and mortar to Instagram shops, to using Facebook, to using WhatsApp, to using whatever technology is out there to be able. So how quickly can your company transform? It may not be a full transformation. It may be a partial transformation based on what's going on right now. So we need to know, because obviously with transformation comes cost. And you need to understand the cost involved in this. And are we able to really manage the cost and deal with the cost? Scope, how much of the company should be digitally transformed? So is it that we want to fully digitize everything in the organization? Or are there certain things that we need to focus on? This is where your risk analysis will come in to understand exactly, okay, these are the things that maybe are going to give us more bang for our buck if we engage a digital platform to be able to deliver, as opposed to other things that may not. So again, scope is important. again, competitive advantage, looking at exactly what's going on out there within your space, your competitors, what they are doing, and see how best you can, if not leverage on them, use that as a way to measure yourself as to exactly what's going on. Human resource communication. I think right now human resource officers are earning their keep with regards to managing, what's going on. And it's especially in human resource, now we're talking about specialists that in areas of transformation that you may now have to involve digital marketers if you don't have a digital marketer to be able to advertise online and all these different areas. And then outsourcing, do we need to outsource? Does it need to be in-house? What can we do to be able to better deliver? So these are just some risks that I came about in preparing for this session that, organizations, and this is not an exhaustive list. Obviously, there could be more, but this is just a guide to be able to guide you and organizations going forward in terms of the risks that you need to focus on and look at in managing your digital transformation. And another thing that we see a lot of organizations now are moving towards cloud service providers. We know, the decision to retain business critical applications in your own data center or in-house, that has suddenly evaporated. And you see here where I bolded and underlined. All those things now are up for naught if all of a sudden your offices are empty and your employees are working from home. So how can we then still maintain our services, maintain our servers, maintain our security? And this is where a lot of organizations are now looking for and adopting cloud service and using cloud service providers out there to be able to give them that scale that they need to be able to still continue and deliver goods and services. And then I saw this quote and I thought this quote was really interesting. I'm not sure if it's happening to any of you. Maybe we can hear about it afterwards in the Q&A in the discussion. But this is an interesting quote here where Ian Campbell, the CEO of Nucleus Research, said that every IT director is going to get a phone call now that says, we want to be in the cloud now. Maybe it is that most directors don't know what the cloud is. They just say, okay, the cloud, we need to be on the cloud. And they're not sure exactly what the cloud is, but our competitors are doing it. So, hey, Mr. IT director, Mr. IT manager, listen, we need to get on the cloud now. And now you have to all of a sudden ramp up in terms of what we need to do to deliver and get onto the cloud. And obviously there are advantages to being on the cloud in terms of low cost, high performance, quick delivery of service, in terms of managing the cost. So the cloud does offer organizations a great bang for their buck, economically speaking, in terms of managing what goes on, what happens. If servers go down one way, you can easily back up to another one and bring us, so you maintain your services online, especially if you have a backup recovery system. So it does offer that bang for your buck. But even in doing so, having a clear strategy and a way forward in terms of adopting cloud service and policies are important. It's not just that you get a phone call in the morning from your boss saying, listen, we need to move forward. We need to get in the cloud. It needs to be a well thought of or managed implementation, and having proper policies or standards in place are important in order to ensure integrity of the system, in order to ensure privacy, the company data that you're going to be putting on the cloud, what kind of data you're going to be putting on the cloud. It's also beneficial from a financial management cost point of view and from a network security point of view. So you need to make sure that you have policies, organizational policies or standards, or look at international standards that exist to be able to guide you, especially if you're in certain sectors. There may be standards that exist if you're in the financial services sector, banks, insurance companies, credit unions, something like that. There may be standards that can be used to guide you if you don't have policies in place in-house to be able to move forward and adopt going onto the cloud. If you're in a business environment, again, there may be standards or best practices out there. So I would always emphasize making sure and having proper policies and standards and guidelines in place within the organization, or looking for what exists out there to be able to guide you going forward with regards to implementing the cloud. And even in going onto the cloud, there are risks involved. It's not just as simple as, okay, everything is now on the cloud up there, somewhere in the sky. That's the other. My daughter's asking me, Daddy, what is the cloud? Is it the thing that is floating up there in the sky, those white clouds? I said, it's difficult to explain. I'm not going to try to explain to a an 8-year-old. So, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds, and there are things and risk involved that you as an IT manager, as a business owner, as a business manager, in whatever sphere you are, that you need to be aware of. And this is a list. I mean, I won't go through lists word for word, but these are things that you need to look at. One important one here I'll point out is, where is your data stored? We have a big issue right now, especially with privacy. We know we have the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, in the EU, that governs the way organizations treat with individuals' data and where you store it and stuff like that. We also have in the US legislation such as the Patriot Act. A couple of years back, they passed the Cloud Act that allows the US the ability to go in and get information regarding US citizens or people that may be of interest to them, maybe either criminally or financially with the IRS or stuff like that, and they can bypass. If you have your data backed up on the cloud and the cloud is within the US jurisdiction, and there's somebody of interest in that jurisdiction, then, you know, through this different legislation, the US may have the power and the ability to bypass your authority and go straight to the service provider with these acts, with these laws that they have in place to get that information. So knowing exactly where your data is stored is critical, you know, especially here in the Caribbean state. There's the whole idea now of data sovereignty. Where do you want your critical data, sensitive data stored? Is it going to be stored in-house? Are you going to put that on the cloud? I know there's a great place right now in the Caribbean. I think it's called Cloud Carib, and they're based in the Bahamas. I think they do most of the work for the government of Bahamas, and they have data centers throughout pockets throughout the Caribbean. I think they're looking to come to Trinidad very soon. And, you know, again, maybe one avenue you may want to look at to see, because not being in the US jurisdiction, it gives them that freedom to not be subject to the Cloud Act and the Patriot Act and stuff like that. So knowing where your data is stored is important. I mean, encryption, how when the data is transferred from your point to the cloud, when it's at rest, what encryption is there, how encrypted is it, how safe is your data with regards to these things. Independently, certification and accreditation of your cloud service providers. Can the data and service be moved easily from one provider to another? So if you're in a contract with one provider and you want to get out and you want to go somewhere else, you know, knowing the terms of your contract, does it bind you to them for a certain amount of period of time? Does it allow you flexibility to move if you want to move from one cloud service provider to another? So, I mean, there are risks involved. Although, I mean, the cloud is great and everybody uses the cloud in one way or fashion, it still has its inherent risk. And we need to be assured, especially from a security point of view and a privacy point of view, exactly where our data is, what kind of data we're going to put in this cloud system, what's the financial cost for us as an organization, and security in terms of encryption, what kind of abilities we have to be able to fix problems if something goes down in the middle of the night and it needs to be fixed. Is it that we can, with our cloud provider, allow us to be able to call them, call the helpline to be able to rectify these problems? So these are the things that you need to think through and be able to put into practice and have proper policies and guidelines to guide you going forward in adopting and moving forward in the cloud. Another area I want to touch on very quickly is the whole idea of data governance, because there are going to be challenges with regards to organizations in terms of the way your data is used. If you have a lot of people who are working from home, they're now going to be accessing information remotely. So that has its own security challenges. If they're going to be adding information to what you already have. So having data governance, I think, plays now a very key role with regards to this. As it says here, in the COVID-19, organizations increasingly must be data-driven and agile. And enterprises also need to have the right processes and policies in place for enterprise data governance to govern, you know, the accountability, who is accountable for what if something goes wrong, policies and standards in place, who are your data stewards, who are your data owners. If an issue does happen, what's the point of call to be able to rectify and deal with these issues if they do happen? So having data governance challenges are something that is not new. I think now, especially given the way organizations are now going to be disrupted and the services are going to be dispersed from working from home to working remotely from different areas, having proper data governance structures or guidelines or policies in place to be able to guide you through these challenging times are critical and would definitely help any organization going forward, especially if they are a data-driven organization or an organization that is now looking forward to leveraging the data that they have to be able to assist them in delivering the goods and services or anything else to their customer, to their clients, or to offer new products and services differently. And we know, I mean, with advancements in technology, organizations now have a lot of data, much more than they had before. I mean, you collect data on everybody from in different points of view, from different ways. You may know their date of birth, you may know where they're born, where they live, their jobs, their salary, depending on the business that you have, their medical conditions, their families, their children. So again, ensuring that you have proper governance systems and oversights within your organization to be able to guide going forward how we manage these issues are important. And I would say that the best barometer to determine how successful an organization will weather the current and future challenges would be how well they handle the data and the analytics that they have before them right now, and implying if you want to apply machine learning or AI, or at least begin to move towards those kinds of avenues to be able to enhance your services out there, then having proper governance systems in place, I think, are key, and will definitely give you a one-up in terms of what you want to do going forward. Of course, there are issues to be considered. One obviously is data integrity, the whole idea of quality, you know, the accuracy and the completeness of the data. If people are now entering information from home onto a database or onto a form or Google form, if it is that's what you're using, and then inputting it afterwards into the database going forward, how do you ensure the quality and the completeness of the data, especially if you're continuing to operate and you're continuing to offer services either to your internal client, being your staff inside, or external clients, you know, ensuring that the integrity of the information is key. Storage and integration is important, knowing where your data is stored, whether it's on-site, whether it's off-site, whether they're using the cloud. Again, having proper policies and guidelines in place, and then having proper security, you know, data access management policies going forward. Who has access to the data? How is the data protected from, if we have a data breach, what's our process going forward in order to notify the organization, notify our IT manager, especially now that we are remote, you know, how do those things happen now if something all of a sudden happens in the night or something over the weekend, and you need now to notify someone? What's the system, what's the process in place going forward? So again, these are all, and they all fall under the whole ambit of governance in terms of understanding and managing your information and your data and how you deal with it within your organization. And then, of course, we're dealing with the whole issues of working from home. And many people think it's a dream. Oh my God, I'm getting to work from home now. I'm so happy. It's not that easy, and I can tell you from personal experience. I've been doing it for a while, and it's not easy. It's something that takes a lot of effort, both on your part and on the organizational part. And now with COVID-19, we're seeing organizations are now unbeknown to themselves, and they may not want it to happen, but it's happening. We now have to now work from home, telework, remote work, but the work still has to get done for the organization. So these are issues now, not only from it's issue that touches on every aspect of the organization, from HR to communication, to personal relations, to IT, to security. How do we now manage, and what are the issues that we need to be cognizant of? Right? I mean, in addition to ensuring that the networks, VPNs, and other resources are capable in supporting such a shift, organizations also now have to have disaster preparedness management plans, mitigation plans. How do we deal with cybersecurity? How do we deal with data privacy? How do we continue to operate? And we're now seeing with this whole shift from working from home, Zoom is a good example of a lot of organizations are now beginning to use Zoom, but we're also seeing with that, what are some of the issues that are now popping up with Zoom from a data privacy point of view with regards to the information, or the issues that they have with regards to data privacy and sharing of people's personal information and stuff like that, or tweaks that may be involved in their system that allows for someone to get involved. And just the other, I didn't even realize it was a term. I think it was Zoom boom or something like that, where somebody can actually hack and take over your Wi-Fi, your conference and stuff like that. So Using new technology is always good, but you also again need to be concerned and understand the vulnerabilities that exist and what things we need to put in place to ensure that we can manage going forward these organizational issues. So here's some privacy and cybersecurity issues that you need to consider. And these are just some. I mean, there may be more, but like I said, I'm preparing for this and doing my research, these are some of the more common ones that seem to be coming up over and over and over. So the first one is access to restricted systems. Many organizations have systems that are subject to on-premises access only. With the shift to teleworking, either by choice or now because it's government mandated, these systems need to be opened up for remote access by unauthorized users, ensuring that such systems are configured appropriately and that additional authentication requirements are included for remote access to these specific systems. Example, distinct password using two-factor authentications are key elements to maintaining the integrity of those systems in a teleworking environment. So again, many people may be accessing the systems from home, you know, and I'll come to that point later on with regards to you using your own laptop or your own computer and the vulnerabilities that exist within that. So understanding the whole access to restricted systems and how we manage that, who has access to what. Again, this is where I guess if you have a data access management policy, standards or guidelines in place to deal with these kinds of things, it can be handy at a time like this to be able to move forward in managing these things. Availability of IT resources for telework is another issue that needs to be considered. While a certain subset of the employee population may already have organizational issue devices for working from home, others may not. I mean, there's only so much laptops or cell phones that you can provide for a certain level of staff within the organization. And it's normally C-level staff, you know, or executive level staff who are the ones who have access to organizational laptops, organizational phones and stuff like that. But now we have a situation where your office is now virtually empty and you have people who now have to work from home and still deliver on their deliverables, still work on the projects that they have going forward. You wouldn't have enough to deploy. So again, these are issues that you need to be aware of. And how do we now deal with this? It may mean that you have to deploy prior generational laptops or devices, you know, the ones that you have stored in storage somewhere, take it off, dust it off, and try to get it done, at least for now, as a quick fix, you know, and then going forward, realize that these are things that you need to be aware of going forward. And again, permitting you workers to use personal devices, you know, the BYOD trend of bring your own device. Now that you're working from home, you may have your own laptop to be able to do it, so it may be easier, but that also has its security because now IT would not have the ability now to screen the laptop to make sure that you have all your patches, all the security updates, all the antivirus updates if you have antivirus. I mean, some people don't even have antivirus on their computers from home and stuff like that. So if you're going to be using your mobile device to be able to access and do things, so the availability of resources is something, again, that you may have been forced into now because it was just sprung up on us. I mean, it really took everybody by surprise. So you may have to go back to the old-time, past generational ones that you were looking to give away or donate if you wanted to do that. Or you may now have to develop now proper security systems in place to monitor people who utilize and accessing your service using their own device from home. And phishing attacks. We see now phishing attacks are now becoming more and more savvy and more interesting with regards to especially if people are working from home. I mean, just the other day, my mom sent me something on WhatsApp, say, hey, you know, check this out and whatever. It's what we could try out this little survey. I looked, I said, Mom, I WhatsApp, I said, don't fill this out, please. This is just one way that they can use to be able to get information from you. And I think just recently I posted a post on my Facebook and I think on my LinkedIn page where it's from a group that I follow called Cybersecurity, in which they said, you know, people who are asking questions like, what's your favorite color? Where do you go to school? You know, and stuff like that. This, as part of games, because these are all designed in a very sophisticated way that people just won't know, and they'll go and they'll answer these things, or they'll click on a link, especially if they're home and they're working from their own devices. and they click on that link, and it gives the person an automatic backdoor into their system, into their laptop, into their computer. And then if they go onto your site, it possibly has the ability for them to use that now as a window to get into your server or to your organization. So again, educating, having a well-trained workforce, and understanding that you can have the best security system, the best cybersecurity system on board, but at least from my readings and from talking with people who are involved in cybersecurity, because it's not really my forte, but talking to people who are involved in this, your single biggest point of failure most of the times are your staff, are people within the organization. Plugging in a USB when you're not supposed to plug in a USB that you get from somebody or something like that. So, educating your workforce going forward is very important with regards to dealing with this. And then remote connections. This could also have a stress on you with regards to VPNs or using other ways to be able to get into the organization. I think during this week, the Ministry of Education, when they had their press conference with regards to students, that school's not going to be open until September, they have an online platform. All of us, and yes, the platform is able to carry a certain load of, I think, 1.8 users, stuff like that. That same day or that same during the press conference, people were trying to get on. You saw a whole list of arguments on Facebook that it's crashed, system crashed, the server crashed. I don't know why, so I wouldn't postulate it as to why that happened. But again, you may be now getting a lot more strain on your servers or remote connections that are coming in that normally you didn't cater for. With regards to that, people may now go and work from their, well, you can't go to your local coffee shop now because Starbucks now is closed. Sad for me, because that was normally my nice place to go and sit down and just drink some coffee and relax and do some work. But again, understanding your remote connections, understanding your firewalls that you have in place, and understanding that it may cause an increased load, so you may need to put things in place to be able to manage that, or one way or the other, to ensure your system doesn't crash and you're still able to deliver at some optimal level to your customers, both internally and externally. And of course, data privacy risk, it goes without saying. Working from home, there are certain risks that are going to be involved. If you have members of staff who are working from home, there's also that area of employer-employee. How much would my employer know about me if they're installing certain things on my own personal computer? Would they be able to monitor me all the time? So there are those personal privacy considerations that need to be involved, not externally, but internally within your clientele, within your staff, within your organization, in terms of monitoring of employees and stuff like that, if you have access to their systems now, so there's that fear. And a lot of guidelines are now being put out by the EU privacy organizations out there in the EU with regards to how do you deal with these situations with regards to employees. And again, this is where having a proper data privacy policy, not an external policy, which will be on your website as external facing, but also internal data protection privacy within the organization to treat with how we deal with personal information, both from a customer point of view, as well as from a personal point of view. So these are issues that people are going to be having going forward. Another thing is if people are still continuing to do goods and services and deliver goods and services offline, well, not offline, but from home. If you have agents who are still collecting information from clients and putting it in on your system through their laptops, do you have proper things in place to ensure that the transmission from that information from their system through remote access to your servers is encrypted? Do you have proper security things in place? When does the workday end? This is a one that actually saw recently with regards to Germany, where Germany actually has a law in place for a couple of years now with regards to especially areas like this, where people work from home or they have access to office phone, office laptop. When does the workday end? Can my employer now contact me at 6 o'clock in the night, 7 o'clock in the night to find out what's going on? So these are all issues that people are talking about and things that you need to be aware about and have, again, policies to be able to guide how we go forward. And communication, I think, is key also. Talking to your staff, talking to others in the organization to ensure that we're all on the same page going forward. So, as I wrap up, coming on to the last parts of the slide here, just some checklists that you can use, both as an individual and as an organization going forward in dealing with this whole coronavirus pandemic. One, make a decision, review existing resources, policies, arrange client arrangements if remote work is feasible, prudent, and if it's something that you have to do. And if it is that you have people on contracts, contracts, if you have certain terms in the contracts, that will also be helpful. Have strategies and policies that you should at least consider. Probably not now, but definitely if you're going to be looking at using data going forward, having a proper organizational data or digital transformation strategy. Now that we see what's going on, what COVID-19 is causing, and we know what's going to be happening in years to come, can we now leverage this disruption that we're having as a way now to transform our organization to ensure if something like this happens again in the future, it doesn't disrupt us as much as possible. And having a proper data or digital transformation strategy, I think, is key, as important to an organization going forward. Having a good data governance system and strategy in place is important. Internal data privacy policy, like I said, when you look at data privacy or data protection policies, there are two kinds. There's a forward-facing, there's an external and an internal. The external one is the one you have on your website. That's the one that tells me, if I go onto your website, how you treat with my personal data, if I transmit my personal data to you, or what are my rights as somebody who's going onto your website with regards to cookies, with regards to submitting data, who would I make complaints to? That's external. But do you have an internal data protection privacy that governs the way we, as an organization, deal with personal data that comes into the organization? Do we have a breach system in place? In case there's a breach, how do we deal with that? How do we manage a breach? Remote work policy is now a big thing that's coming up. Maybe you had it before, maybe you just had it as an add-on to existing policy, but I think now it's something that most organizations should at least consider examining the applicability of probably developing a remote work policy. And in that, you could also add in other existing policies that you have with regards to security, access, data privacy, as covered by or that the remote work policy touches on. Data access policy, security policies. So there's some suggestions that I think that you need to have to look at. Again, have a plan, communications, expense reimbursement. This one is if, for example, somebody doesn't have internet access and they now need to have internet access to do the job. You know, is it that something that the company is going to reimburse? May not be now, but maybe in time to come, who knows? Confirm your IT infrastructure can support remote work. Be ready to address systems and equipment needs for employees who may not be set up to work from home. I know, for example, there's one company I know of in Trinidad, I can't remember the name offhand, where they have now, and I think they are more in the financial kind of like sector. And when they shifted all their employees to work from home, they had the IT staff go into the houses and make sure they had proper security systems in place, check their laptops if they're using their own laptops, make sure all the patches and everything were in place and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's something that you may not do, depending on the size. This obviously is a smaller size organization, so they were able to do that. But again, ensuring that the infrastructure you have in place can work to support people who are remotely working from home. Beef up staff and help desk. You know, if somebody has a problem, it goes on over the night. Who do they help desk to? You know, do you have a help desk system that can allow for people to get help if they need to get help? Ensure, of course, privacy and security systems and processes are in place at all times. Communicate clearly and consistently. You know, ensure critical lines of communication between management are open. Provide employees with access or a place where they can go from help if they don't understand. So communication, I think, here is going to be a very important thing that organizations need to focus on and look at in terms of dealing with the situation that we have going on right now. I wouldn't go through this again. I think I've done this enough. Ensure data privacy and security always upfront. I mean, if you're using a VPN, get a VPN connection. It's always best practice to be able to allow for that kind of connection. If you just have a simple login, maybe you want to look at doing two-factor authentication and stuff like that. Educating your staff as to what's going on. Beware of phishing attacks or people that are using the coronavirus as a way to get into organizations. They've been put a post and they're sending an email that may look like it's from the Ministry of Health, or it's from the CDC, or it's from the WHO. There are a lot of them. going on right now because cybersecurity criminals are enjoying this time right now, I'm sure, in terms of using this as a way for them to get in to organizations. So educating. You can't stress that enough in terms of educating your staff going forward. Obtain employer agreement on conditions for remote from work. Again, this probably sprung up within the blink of an eye, so we didn't have time to do this. But as we begin to go back to normal and people may be shifting, because this isn't going to change overnight. We've already seen the government announce that, at least the Minister of Education announced that schools probably aren't going to open until September. So that means it may definitely going to have impact on parents who may now have to shift and juggle between staying home, going from work, and there may need to be a shift system. If you have parents like that, or if a single mother or single father, they may need to stay home. So this is not going to change overnight. So we need to put proper systems in place right now to be able to manage this. And again, suggestions, these are from me personally, and working from home if you're an employee, or if you're now working from home, obviously you have a computer, that's always good to have. A good internet connection is always good, especially if you're using meeting places like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, or things like that. Make sure you have a good chat conferencing applications. A lot of people are using Zoom, Microsoft Teams. I'm working with some people on a project right now, and they're using Slack as a way to communicate. Self-motivation and discipline is key, because it's difficult to work from home. And I speak here from personal experience, having done it, and now doing it now, especially with 2 children home. It's difficult. So you need to, I mean, for me, I personally, I do it in batches. So I may work a couple hours here, take a break, do other things around the house, then come back and do a couple hours again, take a break, spend some time with the kids or stuff like that, and then come back again afterwards a little bit in the night. So my personal advice to you, if you're working from home and you're not accustomed to doing it, having it in bits and pieces helps to be able to deal with that situation going forward. Having a routine also helps with regards to what you do. I have a whiteboard that I write down everything that I want to accomplish over the week or so. So at least it keeps in my mind what I want to do. But also, you also need to start preparing for when we are now phasing back into going back to work, and being able now to phase back from working remotely to working back in an office environment. And that is also going to take some method of change. We are adjusting back to working in an office, going back to 8 to 4, and all these different routines. From an IT point of view, you're going to have to go back to now check in to see exactly, make sure we have all systems in place, all patches are up, people's lines, connections are working and stuff like that. So it is a fluid situation. And it's not something that is going to change overnight. And this presentation, like I said, wasn't meant to be dictative, but just to give you some points or some considerations that you can look at and use and adopt, and probably do some more research on as you deal with this whole situation within your organization going forward. So again, I think this is the mantra for us right now going forward. Stay safe. If it's possible for you to stay home, stay home. I think I just saw now where they have a lot of roadblocks all over the place with regards to people going out. So if you can stay home, please stay home. Stay healthy. I think I've heard my children say happy birthday umpteen times now since they've been washing their hands every time they're saying happy birthday to you. So, be happy, be safe, and we're going to get through this. And again, I think from an organizational point of view, this probably is a good time for you to rethink strategies and see how best you can now utilize this as a way to transform the way you work, and adopting digital measures to be able to better deliver goods and services to your clientele, both internal and external. So with that, I'm not sure exactly how much time we have, so I hand you back over now to the moderator.
Okay, thanks, Rishi, for that great presentation. I think it kind of put us in context of things we need to consider as organizations shift this from their on-premise to work at home, work from home, and move their operations to the cloud as they try to make it to grab the flexibility to allow their employees to continue and for their business to continue to operate. We have just about 10 minutes left in the webinar, right, to take some questions. But one of the things I wanted to ask was what should the companies that were kind of thrust into moving the operations online at um, very short notice, right, and may not have had the time to plan for it. And what should these companies be doing now that they've moved online, they have their persons working at home, and they're now thinking about the issue, or they should be thinking about the issues of the privacy and especially the security of your data being used, being accessed by the employees. What should they be doing now um, to kind of prepare not just for going back onto premise, but also to manage the risk they're now in space? What should they be doing now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what we have seen is a lot of organizations that probably, okay, I was thinking I'm probably going to adopt digital technology or use that as an avenue, but probably not right now. And then COVID-19 hit, and now they're forced by force to actually adopt and go through these things. I think probably now my recommendation would be it would be now a good time, one, to take stock and to examine what's going on. I mean, many people could be, you know, your head is hot, you're doing a lot of things simultaneously, but sometimes it's good just to stop and take stock and assess the situation. See exactly what's going on. I mean, start probably taking lessons from what's going on and seeing exactly, you know, examining, okay, how are we operating here? What are some of the issues that we're having that we didn't have beforehand? What are some of the things we need to probably put in place now within the organization? Again, it depends on your size. If you're a very small organization and you're thinking about, like, for example, let's say, okay, maybe now we need to probably look at going to the cloud. Do your research, see exactly what organizations are out there. One good thing I always tell companies to do, for example, from a personal privacy point of view, is to take stock of the information that you have in terms of the personal data that you collect on individuals. And this is both internally, your staff, as well as externally, clients or customers that you deal with. And see exactly, you know, from a data privacy point of view, I would say probably take stock of that and see exactly what goes on. How does this data now move from one to the other? Who has access to it? You know, so it gives, I think it now gives you a good time to take stock of what's going on and to probably do some reassessment. Allow you the ability now to see what was working, what are some of the things that we need to put in place going forward, policies, maybe getting expert help, maybe getting guidance from somebody, so that, you know, as we go back to normal, and personally I don't think it's going to be a new normal, it's going to be a normal that it has ups and downs, what we can do to ensure that it doesn't disrupt us going forward.
Okay, great. We have a question coming in, specifically looking at how do you look forward and prepare for possible long-term and business continuity processes and planning? So I think the question is looking at, you know, we have been shifting to this mode of operation. How do we now look at business continuity given what has happened?
Yeah, I think that's where now you need to have a proper business continuity plan or system in place. So in case something happens or something goes on, that, you know, it doesn't disrupt us, and that maybe within a 24-hour time we can be up and running. I mean, it may be that, and this is examples that I've seen with BCPs, business continuity plans, is that you may need to look at what are the critical things that we need to have up and running. So it may not be that you need to have 100% fully up and running going forward in case something like this happens before. Or, I mean, like I said, we're in the Caribbean, so we're subject to natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, and all these other things. So, I mean, this alone could be your disruptor. There are other things that could happen that could disrupt your service. So a proper BCP plan would be looking at what are the mission critical things that we need to have up and in place within a 24-hour time frame to at least allow us to be able to continue to have a presence out there. It may be part of a backup strategy. It may be, again, using the cloud as a way to back up and store stuff in the cloud. So in case something happens, we're able to continue working remotely through different avenues. So again, examine the organization, seeing what are the critical things that you think you need to have up and running, a point of view, and having a plan is important going forward. And that's something I'm not sure how many organizations take the time to do that, but as part of your risk assessment, it should be part of your risk assessment going forward, looking for what could happen and then plan ahead. I mean, I think I'll take this quote from the Singaporean foreign minister a couple of weeks ago. I listened to a YouTube of his. He said, "You plan for the worst, but you hope for the best."
Yes, and I think it's a good. You just point out a good made a good point there. Is that a lot of our plans were based on having a certain way of operating, and from within our organizations. A lot of these plans are now maybe ineffective. So I think one of the things that IT and the organization needs to be doing really is reviewing all these plans and all these policies, because some of them, and a good majority of them, may not even be effective anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I know organizations sometimes when they draft the policy, they say this policy be reviewed every 2 years or every 3 years, and then you look in and what, when was this policy last reviewed? When it was drafted, which would have been about 5 or 6 years ago. So again, these are always meant to be fluid, living documents, and we live in a time now where things are changing so rapidly. Not only with something like this with COVID-19, but technology is advancing. The needs of customers are slowly advancing and changing. And I think now is a good time we're actually seeing that those who are able to adapt quickly to meet the needs of the clientele out there are the ones who are succeeding. So yeah, you need to be aware of all the time what's going on. And these documents should always be living documents as part of your, especially if you do strategic planning as in an organization. And that's normally maybe a 3-4 year time frame. So that's always a good thing to start with, to be able to look ahead and see what's going on and to forecast.
I think it's a good opportunity for organizations to take the time to actually do this. That is, review your policies and review your plans for business continuity and disaster recovery and disaster preparedness. Right, so it's a good time to do it. What would you say to those organizations who now have to look at what do we do at the end of it all? Because it's like, putting a drop of ink in a pool of water. How do I get back my data? How do I, well, not get back my data, but account for my data to make sure it's properly protected?
Yeah, and this is where, I think this is where now IT plays an important role going forward, IT and security personnel, in terms of having a proper review, or I mean, use this word, monitoring and evaluation. So maybe over the time, you may want to monitor and see exactly what's going on, and then use this as a good opportunity to evaluate when you're going back to normal. All right, what are some of the things that worked? What are some of the things that we had issues with? If you have a log, to be able to log the amount of queries you have had on certain issues, it's always good to have it, always doing an assessment afterwards to see exactly what's going on afterwards. I think this, like I said, it's not a good time, and we all can admit it. It's a difficult time. It's a trying time. I mean, I personally have family members who are nurses and doctors and stuff like that. So I know it's a difficult time for them to deal with. So it's not a good time. But from an organizational point of view, it possibly would be one of the few times you're able to actually now, there's not too much strain on you or stress on you right now, to be able to take back and assess, especially from an IT point of view, security point of view, data point of view, what's going on in my organization and what things I now need to put in place, or what are the lessons I'm now starting to learn as enter this new era of doing business.
Yes, I think it's a good time for most organizations to start ramping up their auditing capabilities, to be able to start looking into how the operations were changed and what effect this is going to have on the risk posture of the organization, so that they can develop some kind of strategy to start mitigating these risks.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think now is where you need to have all, I mean, your IT plays a role, your business people play a role, your auditors, internal auditors, if you have internal audits, play a role, if you have a policy arm within your organization. So everybody, I think, plays an important role here in being able to see, because for me, it's organizational. It's not, it's IT, of course, is the ones at the forefront, and that's, I mean, the purpose of this talk is really from an IT point of view, but everyone within the organization has an important role to play in this going forward. So it takes an organizational wide view to look at it and not put it into silos and say, well, this is an IT problem, so let IT come with solutions. It's not an IT problem, it's an organizational problem. Everyone within the organization needs to play a role in assessing what's lessons learned and how do we go forward and make the organization a better organization going forward.
Yes, and I thank you for making that point. It is not an IT issue, it is an organizational issue.
Yeah, and I've heard that many times where, you hear certain things come up. You hear the word data come up, or you hear certain things come up, and oh, that's IT. Let's shove it on to IT and let them deal with it. It's really an IT problem, but it's not really an IT problem. They are part of it, but they can't solve the problem, because if you're lacking policies or processes in place, or if you're not sure exactly what you want to do, then I mean, IT can't help you. It can only help you as much as you know what you need to do. So that's why I make the point all the time. It's not an IT issue only. It's an organizational issue. It's a business issue that you need to have all hands on deck to play a role in charting the way forward. Obviously, HR is now an important issue, where people regards to, if you have leave, this whole thing with pandemic leave, and when that comes up, if it does come up, and all these different areas are coming up. So, I mean, it touches every single aspect of the organization.
Yes, well, with that, we're just about up in terms of time. So, Rishi, I want to say thank you very much for your time today and for the information you've given us as good food for thought. And I think we'll all be taking it back to our organizations, and really it's given us that, to think really about what this means for us from an operational perspective and a risk perspective of privacy and confidentiality, and the risk to our data as we have been moving between on-premise to cloud, and possibly we'll have to move back to on-premise, and with teleworking and all these things. So good food for thought. I think it was a very interesting discussion and presentation. So once again, thanks very much on behalf of the chapter for your time and your knowledge.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope everyone, again, stay safe, and we'll get through this eventually.
Right. And just to wrap up, to answer some other questions, yes, we will be putting the PDF of the slides on the website, so that you can visit the chapter's website and download the PDF from there. We will also have a recording of this webinar available, so that you can view it, or you can share it with others, and they can view it on demand. So with that said, I think that's it for us. That's the end of our webinar. And again, thank you for everyone for taking time off to attend. Please remember, claim your CPE and be safe out there during this time. And we'll see you soon for another chapter webinar. Take care.